whether or not you were able to successfully complete the assignment within the allotted time, and how was the experience of doing the task as a group. Kadina, do you want to start first?
Hi, sure, good night. Our question was, we were basically supposed to list 6 capitals of 6 parishes. So I took the initiative of leading off, requesting that each person um, adds adds one to the group, to the chat. That way we would have had excess, but everyone was supposed to send forward one. Challenge that occurred. You had instances where one person had to was doing more than one because we weren't getting as much responses as we would have liked, being that 12 persons were in the group and myself 13. uh, to get the responses from the person, that was our challenge.
Okay. Was there any designated leader, so to speak, or you all just sort of jumped in and everybody
There was
took the
no
initiative?
designated
No.
there was no designated leader.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you found basically that in your case, maybe one or two persons was doing the heavy lifting.
I guess you could say that, being that one person submitted more than one response
Okay.
to meet the goal.
Right. Were you able to complete the actual task, though? Were you able to name all?
Yes,
Yes?
we did.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. All right. Can we hear from another group?
Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Anna.
Okay, can I go ahead?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I can't seem to find my raise my hand option. All right, but I don't know, it was I'm not sure what the true intention of it was, but we answered all our questions. I'm sure we would have passed that test. We hope that the group's test will be something like that. It became a very therapeutic session for us. Short it was, but we really found it very therapeutic. We started to relate to each other. We started asking each other questions about the parishes that we're from, that sort of a thing, what kind of food we like from the parishes, and I don't know, kind of went off on a tangent at one point, but it was just so good. I'm not sure if I'm really answering what you want me to say, but that's what our experience was.
But so did you experience any issues actually getting to the task? You mentioned that you
Oh
all
man,
seemed to have, you had a nice rapport, but in terms of the actual activity.
no man, that's Camille Drakes. She made sure that the task was out of the way 2 seconds. We
Okay.
completed very fast, and then we
Okay.
just started to talk around the topic. So basically,
Right.
we're always on the activity.
Okay.
Right, so
Great.
if I may chime in, Andrea.
Yes.
Yes, so our question was, you are the new head of the HRD department, and you have been tasked with developing its mission and vision statement. Now, we sought clarity on the question because we needed to understand what type of company we are heading, the HR department that we're heading, and so that we can properly develop the mission and vision statement. So Cashel informed us that we were free to choose a type of company that we want to develop the mission and vision statement for. So we decided to choose a telecommunications company, and we developed our mission and vision, and it reads, our mission is to provide high quality and reliable telecommunication services to all citizens of Jamaica. And it was very necessary for us to contextualize that to include citizens of Jamaica, because we realized that a major setback or drawback or lack in terms of the delivery of service by telecommunication companies in Jamaica is the network coverage and high quality network in all the parishes of Jamaica. So that is why we contextualize our mission like that, and our vision in terms of where we want to get to in the future, that future state, ideal state, is to be the premier provider of telecommunication services in the Caribbean. So we want to extend our borders and we want to establish ourselves beyond Jamaica. And then we went into we clarified the thoughts on the vision and the mission, You know, when I began, Anna Kay jumped in quickly and mentioned the reliability factor. And then we verified with other members of the group and they agreed with the mission and the vision. Then our second question was to list the capital of 6 parishes in Jamaica. What we did was to ask the persons, the members of the group, which parish they're from. And so we could readily get the responses. We did not have representation for 6 parishes, but with our basic background knowledge on the parishes of Jamaica, we were able to come up with the responses very quickly. And then we just had this very wonderful discussion about where we're from and the benefits of these different parishes, what we enjoy, the culture, the food, all of that. So it was a wonderful session and a very interactive one.
So if I may, of the 2 tasks that you were assigned, one obviously was a little bit less challenging than the other, meaning naming the parishes. So turning our attention to the other activity, the development of the vision and the mission, that would have taken a little bit more effort and a little bit more creativity. What was that process like in terms of the group? In Kadina's case, she mentioned that there were maybe 1 or 2 persons who were doing who were contributing mostly. What was the process like for you for that particular assignment, developing the mission and vision?
All right, so I pretty much started the discourse, the brainstorming, and then Anna chipped in, and then the other members also joined in and agreed with what we proposed. So it was very quick because I guess the suggestions were really relatable, or persons found usefulness and value in what we suggested as being a suitable mission and vision. So there was quick agreement.
Okay.
So I guess you did a good job in putting us all together.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Camille. Thank you, Anna. Thanks to the members of your group. All right, so if we could hear from some of the individuals now who were doing the same activity. One person who worked on these activities on your own. Cashel, were there any individuals? Latoya, were there any individuals, single persons working on any of these?
I think for the most part, even though they were in an individual setting, because they were all there, they assumed the function of a group. Oh. So what was interesting for me though, Andrea, is when I was placed in the first group, and I believe that is Camille's and Anna's group, as soon as they received the task, they just proceeded into trying to figure it out. You know, it wasn't a conversation, okay, all right, or there wasn't a lot of dead air or anything like that. They just started the activity. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I wanted to be clear around is which one of the 2 groups had said that I would prefer, or they agree that it's better if you work with a group. Which one of the 2 groups said that?
There was a mixture actually. This is Kadina. When placed in the breakout room, I raised my hand at the initial question in agreement with the mood. However, there were persons in the group who did not agree. They did not raise their hand.
Okay, so they would have preferred to do the task on their own.
Yes.
Okay. I think that says a lot, Andrea, especially when you look at the feedback that you receive.
All right, well, great, thank you. I think we will leave it there in terms of our activity. We are going to share throughout the rest of our presentation some of the key processes and theories that obtain as it pertains to how groups perform and how effective groups perform relative to how individuals may perform. So at this point in time, Sandra will take us through this phase of our presentation.
Good evening, everyone, fellow team members and members of the cohort and our lecturer. I am Sandra Williams, and I will be taking this segment of the presentation. And we start off by asking the question, what is a group? A group is two or more individuals interacting and striving towards a common goal, each aware of the other group members and the interdependence that exists between or among them. And this is a quote from Johnson & Johnson, 1997. Now, there are several stages that groups go through in their development. The first is forming, the second is storming, the third is norming, the fourth is performing, and the fifth adjourning. Now, groups having gone through the first three stages of this process of development, when they get to stage 4, which is the performing stage, that's where they remain the longest. Just to provide a little definition for performance and productivity, group performance, it is the level of efficacy that exists among two or more persons who interact with each other and are independent, interdependent, and recognize that they belong to the same group in achieving a group. Productivity, on the other hand, according to Steiner of 1972, is dependent on the demands of the task and the group members' individual skills. That is behavioral and cognitive. Potential productivity accounts for in fact, there are two kinds of productivity, real and potential. Potential productivity accounts for the quality of productivity gained from application of all available resources, while real productivity, the potential productivity minus losses through the process. There are two main causes of productivity loss: motivation and coordination. We will agree that most successful groups are those that perform and produce consistently. This presentation summarizes the key processes and theories for effective group performance and productivity. Norman Triplett is a psychologist from the University of Indiana. In 1898, conducted a study to evaluate the effects of dynamogenic stimulation. Dynamogenic is an dynamogenic is an adjective that is formed from the noun dynamogenesis, which means an increase in the mental or motor activity of an already functioning body system that accompanies any added sensory stimulation. This is a definition from the Merriam-Webster Medical Dictionary. Now, Triplett's study was in the dynamogenic factors in pacemaking and competition. And what he did was he observed a group of cyclists in three scenarios. One was riding alone, one was riding with an improvised pacemaker, and the other was riding along with other competitors. He observed that these who rode with the pacemaker and the one in the competition, they rode faster and in a less time than the rider who rode alone. From this research, the theory of social facilitation was developed, and this is an area that interested quite a number of other psychologists. Some of those psychologists are Floyd Allport of 1924, Joseph Pessim of 1933, and Dashiell of 1935. Now, social facilitation, as defined by Donaldson Forsyth in his book, Group Dynamics, 2010, page 284, is the enhancement of an individual's performance when working with other people rather than when working alone. There are several levels of social facilitation. And we'll start off with the cognitive. There are several theories, and we will start off with the cognitive theory. Now, I'm sorry, could you just, okay. Some theories have suggested that when people are in the presence of others, it negatively impacts their ability to process information properly. Could you go to the next slide, please, Andrew? I'm sorry. There is the distraction conflict theory that assumes that when others are present, attention is divided between the other people and the task. This facilitates performance on simple tasks. Now, there's also the evaluation apprehension theory, and I'm so sorry about that. Very, very sorry. I am just looking back at something that I have here. There is also the, I'm sorry, Andrea, could you just go to the other slide and then come back to this? I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, please go back, sorry. Okay. I'm so sorry about that little pause. Right, so one school of thought is that the presence of others causes distraction. However, for simple tasks, this level of distraction is small. And in fact, if the individual makes an effort to concentrate, then performance is improved. So what it is really saying, therefore, is that the distraction, while others are in the presence of someone, or while someone is in the presence of others, it actually does enhance performance for simple tasks. There are also the motivational processes that include evaluation apprehension theory. And what it says is that individuals are fearful of being negatively evaluated by other members of the group, and therefore there's a willingness to perform greater because you do not want to be perceived as not being able to pull your weight really. Self-presentation theory is another one that motivates people to perform in a group. And what it says is that an individual's desire to make a good impression within a group, and also of groups to external groups, will try to portray the social image that they perceive to be acceptable by the groups. There is also the effect of personality processes, and under that we have the social orientation theory. And what it speaks to is that people differ in their overall orientation towards social situations, and these individual differences predict who will show facilitation or impairment in the presence of others. A part of social orientation, what it says is that there are some people who are very self-confident, and they believe in the belief that they have a belief that there is safety in numbers, and so they are encouraged. The presence of others actually does stimulate them to perform higher. There are other individuals who are actually not, it is perceived that they are not so sociable. They tend to be on the shy side, and therefore they are inhibited by this kind of setting. And so they do not normally react positively in these situations. There is also the impact of drive processes. And what drive processes speaks about is that individuals who are psychologically driven to perform by the mere presence of others will see this occasion as a challenge for them to rise to. And they will do it very easily and very quickly. And we saw that also in our group presentation, our group breakout session just now, where persons went into groups and, you know, a topic that you would have thought to come up with a mission and vision statement would stump some persons, but no, I mean, they just went straight into it without preamble. So difficult tasks sometimes is not seen so difficult for them, and they actually thrive under that. Some others who are not so quick at these things, are not so adept, they experience a stress response, and rather than performing at their maximum, they actually decrease their performance. Now, there is a model of social facilitation that was studied by Robert Zajonc, and it is called the Zajonc's model of social facilitation. And what it speaks to is that the presence of others will stimulate a dominant response, and when that happens, social facilitation occurs. However, when a non-dominant response is required for that situation, and a non-dominant response could come out of a situation where the task is either not so familiar or it is just a very complex task, then you have social interference as the end product, because it requires the persons now to take time to think about that task that they are required to perform, and it takes a little longer. So rather than being able to flow through very easily and quickly, it is hampered by the presence of other persons, and so we call that social interference. At this point, I will hand over to my other colleague to take it from here.
Good evening, everyone. This is Shanique, and I will just go straight into the continuation of our presentation, and we're going to speak a little about process losses. Process losses is any action, operation, or dynamic that prevents a group from reaching its full potential. Such actions include reduced effort, inadequate coordination of effort, poor communication, or ineffective leadership. We will, however, be focusing more on motivation loss and coordination loss. Motivation loss, as we have it, it occurs when a team member fails to perform to the best of their ability. It means that when individuals are working by themselves, they tend to be more proactive, as they usually have to do follow through on their own. In other words, they basically have to give an account for their own action, and therefore they are pushed to be as proactive. Being in a group, especially a large group, it is more likely for social loafing. It's more likely for the social loafing tendency to present itself, as individuals tend not to assume responsibilities for tasks because they assume that their task will be undertaken by other members of the group. Another form of process loss is coordination loss, and we are going to look at some of the effects of coordination loss. Coordination loss, as we have it here, is a reduction in productivity caused by the imperfect integration of efforts, activities, and contribution of each group member. So what can we do to reduce social loafing? Forsyth spoke about 4 ways to reduce social loafing. He spoke about increasing identifiability with the group and that is when persons feel as if their efforts cannot be ascertained because the task is a collective one, then social loafing is likely to occur. So he says that if we increase identifiability with the group, then this will reduce social loafing. I don't know about you all, but can you imagine being in a group where there are no set targets? How would you feel going around in circles? I would certainly feel like a headless chicken. Can you agree? It is therefore important, as Forsyth mentioned, and we all can agree because this is something that happens in our group on a daily basis. It is important for us to set goals so that we can have a clear vision or a clear sense of direction of what we want to achieve in our group. Groups that have a clear and challenging goal will perform better than members who have no sense of direction. And it's not just only about setting goals to give a sense of direction, but also ensure that these goals are challenging enough to bring about effort in the group. He also spoke about increasing the involvement in the group and increasing identification with the group. Lack of motivation, lack of commitment, lack of clearly defined goal, lack of individual evaluation, lack of appreciation are all causes of social loafing. Effects of social loafing, we have the free rider effect, and that is when individuals in a group ignore the task that they expect others to fill the gap. I'm sure that we can all agree that this is very common. And I believe even in our class now, we may have persons who are like that. The sucker effect is a tendency of individuals in group to reduce their efforts and contributions when they feel other members will think negatively of them if they don't contribute too much. How to prevent social loafing? Establish individual accountability, develops rules of group of conduct, establish a system to encourage group loyalty, choose the right team members for the job. And guys, this is very important. Selecting someone to do a task that they are not interested in is not going to be beneficial to the group. Keep group as small as possible and only allow necessary members. Clearly define the task and highlight individual and group accomplishments and acknowledgements. The next form of process loss is coordination loss, and coordination loss occurs when there is delay in time persons take to finish tasks. If the group is too large and there is uncoordinated assignment of tasks, which results in duplication of efforts by team members. Also, if contributions are not weighed in an optimal way, or if the team members make incorrect assumptions about what subtasks will perform. Also, the presence of conflict and personal issues will create coordination problems in the group. Task demand is the effect that a problem or task features, including divisibility and difficulty, have on the procedures the group can use to perform the task. Steiner's taxonomy of tasks distinguishes group tasks depending on whether the task is divisible between group members or whether the quantity or quality of the output is relevant and how individual contributions are related to the group performance. Steiner's taxonomy of tasks is broken down into 3 parts. You have the component, which speaks about divisibility and unitary. And this begs the question whether or not the task can be broken down into subtasks. Focus focuses on the quantity produced or the quality of the performance. Interdependence is how individual inputs are combined to yield a group product. Divisible task means that the task can be divided into subtasks, and individual members can be assigned specific subtasks to be completed in contribution to the greater task. We saw this coming out in our group. Even preparing for this presentation, we were able to assign different sections to individual of our group so that the task can be completed in a timely manner and a more effective way. Unitary means that the task cannot be divided into subtasks, which require the group to either work together on the task or have only one individual that complete the task, with the remainder of the group becoming bystanders. The focus category considers whether or not whether the focus of the task is quantity or quality. Which is more important to the group? How much is produced or how good is the product? A maximizing task, interdependence, as I said earlier, is how individual inputs are combined to yield a group product. Additive task means that it allows members to each contribute individually, and those individual contributions then add together for the greater output of the group. Compensatory tasks require group members to average their individual recommendations or solutions. Example provided in Foresight summary include estimating the weight of an animal or averaging a job applicant's rating. Disjunctive tasks require group members to determine a single solution for the entire group. You can go to the next slide, Andrea. Now, Steiner's law of group productivity. It says actual productivity equal potential productivity minus loss owing to faulty processes. This means that when an actual group performance is below potential, then process loss would have occurred. Now, we might be wondering what the relationship between process loss and group productivity is. Max Ringelmann sought to explain this in his study by asking simple but practical questions. His theory describes the finding that in physical tasks, such as weight pulling, for example, the average performance of individual group members decreases with the increasing group size. And later investigation shows that this process loss is due to both insufficient coordination. So we are tying Max Ringelmann effect to both coordination loss and motivation loss, because investigation showed that both insufficient coordination, which is when members fail to exert their maximal effort at the same moment, and decreased motivation, where you have individuals working less hard when they're a part of a group, leads to process loss. I will now hand over to my next presenter.
At this point, we're going to talk about process gains. Process gains is actually the actual productivity. Well, the actual productivity is equal to the potential productivity less losses owing to faulty processes, as my colleagues just said, plus gains owing to good processes. Some of the gains that can be accomplished through group process is brainstorming, the stepladder technique, the Delphi technique, the nominal group technique. The next slide, please, Andrea. What is brainstorming? Brainstorming is an individual or group method used for generating ideas, increasing creative efficacy, or finding solutions for a specific problem by gathering a list of ideas spontaneously thought of or ideas contributed by its group members. Advantages: it reduces the dependence on a single authority figure. It encourages open sharing of ideas. It stimulates participation among group members. It provides individual safety in competitive groups. It maximizes output for a short period of time. It ensures a non-evaluative climate, and it tends to be enjoyable and stimulating.
All right, let's put things into perspective. We looked at all of these theories and how they all put them into context in terms of our group. So for example, the evaluation apprehension theory, during one of our early team meetings, a group member revealed, we won't say who that person is, revealed that her contribution to the discussion was minimal, as she had a fear that what she was saying, she didn't possess enough knowledge on the topic. Therefore, she chose to remain quiet rather than risking sounding foolish. And right then and there, that proved the evaluation apprehension theory. In terms of self-presentation theory, whether it's makeup or nice clothes or studying all night to be armed with the correct info to make the right impression, it said that when in Rome, you do what the Romans do. And as individuals, we often try to fit in. So there you are, your first day of work, and you really want to make a good impression on your fellow teammates for several reasons, be it to build a good working relationship or to position yourself for any available promotions. When I just joined our group, I wanted to ensure that my teammates viewed me as a good contributing member of the team. So I put my best foot forward, as I am sure many of us did when we began this journey. And there it is. We all proved the self-presentation theory. Now, brainstorm, for those who don't know. Brainstorm, for those who think they know, but don't know. Well, just kidding, just kidding. So as a group, our team utilizes brainstorming for all of our projects, as it allows us to build on each other's ideas and perfect our own. The analogy that two heads are better than one has proven to be true in many instances. For us, ideas are thrown in, discussed, refined, expounded, and some of them even get thrown out. In one instance, this created a bit of conflict when an idea was removed from one of our presentations. We, however, resolved the issue after noting the need to be expressive and to trust each other more. Now, Cashel will explain a bit more about how tips for improving brainstorming. Or rather, she will explain more on creating a cohesive group.
Thank you, Latoya. And just to wrap things up, just to bring everything together, we've looked at the different theories and concepts, but what is important is leaving the presentation understanding what you need to do to establish a cohesive group. So you want to ensure, you can skip, Andrea. You want to ensure that you identify the different challenges within your group. You need to ensure that you build a foundation of trust. We've been in this program for 2 months now, So I'm assuming that we're at a point where all our team members feel that they can trust each other, because in doing so, it will build a foundation for us creating a cohesive group that will allow us to function effectively. We are way beyond our time. We will make our presentation available so you can go through the full extent of what we have here. So thank you for your time and have a good evening.
Thank you. So who was I talking to? I had been indicating before that you guys had way gone past your time. I mean, I was allowing some time given the presentation, the activity that you had earlier, but I don't know, maybe I was mentioning somebody. I'm not so sure. But anyways, thank you so much, group 4. Yeah, I'm not gonna dwell on it right now. We'll comment after, but we just want to get group 3 in, their presentation in, and then I'll comment after. So, yes, if you have to go over, guys, please, could you ask for permission? I mean, you know, we know the time, it's half an hour for the presentation. The other group members would have been, you know, kind of taking account of the time. So you can ask the class at this point. We have a few more. Can we have a few more minutes of your time for our presentation? So moving forward, as I said, I'm not very strict on the time for this presentation, this first presentation, but moving forward. So yes, let's go group 3 and then we'll talk about it after.
All right, Miss, so I can, thank you. I can go ahead with sharing now, right, Miss?
Yes, yes,
All right,
yes.
let me
yes.
see how, okay.
Thanks, group 4.
Sure. Are you able to see?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. All right. 1 second. All right, so we're going to begin now. Start.
Talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships. Michael Jordan.
Unity is strength. When there is teamwork and collaboration, wonderful things can be achieved. Individually, we are one. Together, we are open. It was Tom Wilson who said, "Many of us are more capable than some of us, but none of us is as capable as all of us."
Hello, everyone. My name is Anna K. Brumfield, and for the next few minutes, I will be your moderator for this evening's lesson. We have prepared a very interactive and informative presentation for you. As we explore the content, we crave your indulgence. Initially, our planned agenda items intended for us to engage you in a fun icebreaker puzzle, but after test running the presentation, we decided as a group that the activity was far too meaningful to just use arbitrary groups, all in the name of fun competing for a prize. Instead, we wish to move it to the end of the class as we have been granted permission for it to be facilitated. We will instead use the puzzle as a cumulative activity for you to be placed in breakout rooms with your familiar teammates. This will allow you the opportunity to demonstrate application of the content you will be introduced to. The link for the puzzle will be shared, and the team that first produces the image closest to the original photo will have the option of choosing between an Amazon gift card or the equivalent worth of call credits. So this is a glimpse of the image you'll be asked to mirror in the puzzle activity. Today, we will further explore our study of groups by focusing on the tenets of group cohesion and development. We consider it pure luck to have been placed in a group together. The stars that comprise this team include Anna Meal, Kadina Coots, Abigail Subarni, Jody Prendergast, Horail Reed, Delon Williams, and myself. I now hand over to the best group leader anybody could ever ask for. Abby, the spotlight is yours.
Thank you very much, Anna. So we are going to be looking at the nature of group cohesion. Caron et al. 1987 defines group cohesion as a dynamic process reflected in the tendency for a group to stick together and remain united in the pursuit of instrumental objectives and or the satisfaction of member affective needs. Cohesion is considered to be one of the most important tenets of group dynamics. Cohesion exists where a group is present. There is no cohesion without the presence of a group, and groups would quickly disintegrate without some form of cohesion. The concept of cohesiveness gives us a deeper look into how groups survive or how some are destroyed. Next, please. Components of cohesion. Though the term group cohesion may seem simple and the meaning looks apparent, a closer look will reveal that there really is no clear way of defining exactly what group cohesion is. Cohesiveness takes on various forms and functions. Cohesion is not a simple unitary process, but a multi-component process with a variety of indicators. We therefore cannot identify a quote-unquote typical cohesive group because different groups can represent cohesion in different ways. Realizing that a comprehensive review on group cohesion cannot be proffered, researchers focus on 4 interrelated processes to understand group cohesiveness. Next, please. So we have social cohesion, task cohesion, perceived cohesion, and emotional cohesion. And we're just going to briefly look at these. So social cohesion is a set of characteristics that keep a group able to function as a unit. Yes, so Lewin and Festinker, 1943, describes cohesion as a force that keeps groups intact by pushing members together, as well as countering forces that push them apart. The main force that they focused on in their study was attraction. Whereas social cohesion reflects the degree to which members of a team like each other and interact accordingly, according to Richard 2013, task cohesion refers to the degree to which members of a group work together to achieve common goals. For example, to win a specific game. Some researchers are of the belief that cohesion has more to do with a member's willingness to work together to accomplish their objectives rather than what it does with their interpersonal relations. For perceived cohesion, an individual's perception of their own cohesion to the group is what makes them feel a part of the group. So it deals with how individuals think of themselves as being joined to the group. Emotional cohesion focuses on the connection that is felt while members are in a group. Emotional cohesive groups share a collective emotional experience. I hand back over to you, Anna.
Excellent illustration, Abby. Thank you for that. As we delve deeper into the focus of group cohesion and development, we must explore the factors that influence initiations and also sustenance of groups. These include that of interpersonal attraction, stability of membership, group size, structural features, and initiations. So here we observe that the interpersonal attraction is really a relationship between people who we love, people who love, admire, and are committed to one another because they share common interests, values, similar worldviews, and interests. While the definition is pretty straightforward, let us take a closer look at the concept of interpersonal attraction. We ask these questions. Why do we form groups? Why is it that we feel so attracted to the persons that we do? Groups at work, friends at school. Why do some formed bonds last and others not so much? Interpersonal attraction is explained in two basic factors. Here we go. The first would be the short-term factor, otherwise known as the initial, and the long-term factor, otherwise known as the maintenance factor. Short-term factors increase likelihood to form interpersonal bonds, while long-term factors are the reasons we arguably want to stay in these relationships. It is important to establish that this type of relationship is not limited to that of a sexual orientation. Short-term factors may be further broken down in components of proximity and physical appearance. We are familiar with the proximity components from the previous presentation, joining and leaving groups. And so we know that it posits that you are more likely to form relationships with people who are near you both physically and, in the case of our new normal, virtually. Consider, for example, that two people may be so right for each other, but if they never meet, it may almost eliminate that chance. So then, we must also understand that what could act as a deterrent to attraction may be the prediction of a lack in proximity. To further explain the concept of proximity, the literature mentions the idea of the propinquity effect, which states that the more we see and interact with someone, the more likely that person will become an interpersonal partner, as stated before, physically or virtually. Or the mere exposure effect, which says that the more we are exposed to someone or something, the more we end up liking it. The second short-term factor, and one we can relate to all too well, is that of physical appearance, which theorizes that you are less likely to be attracted to people you simply consider to be physically unappealing. Of course, there are exceptions wherein you may have, through other circumstances, gotten to know someone enough that physical appearance becomes secondary. And here we'd like to reference, because we like to transfer knowledge, we'd like to reference the principle we just examined of mere effect exposure. Consider storylines such as, for instance, Beauty and the Beast. If you are honest, you would realize how much time you invest in choosing a picture to post, as you believe it will increase your chances of being considered for whatever it is that you desire. You could maybe reflect to the initial assignment for this very program when we were asked to post our pictures. I'm sure we made the attempt to put our best face forward. It is not a phenomenon specific to dating. There is also an idea it upholds when choosing friends as well. Elaine, 1966, talks about the matching hypothesis that says we are also attracted to people we perceive to have the same attractiveness as we do. This explains how we say things like, she's out of my league, or that guy is simply not my type. Now to long-term factors. We discussed the similarity factor being the idea that birds of a feather flock together, as well as the differences factor that opposites attract. Social similarities may include, but aren't limited to, movie choices, or at work, for example, you may realize that someone else likes to take their coffee the same way that you do, and that forms a bond. Task similarities may be that you and your coworker or friend share a similar deadline, or that we are both students, and we can all relate to that situation. Values and attitudes may be we both appreciate, for example, democratic leadership styles, among other interests. Differences in this case doesn't just mean we are opposites, but more specifically that there are traits I do not have that complements the ones that you have, and vice versa. Then there are the reasons we form interpersonal relationships, such as interest in one's charisma. These set of persons, they really make me laugh, or I find them so funny. Competence, I want to be placed in a group with her or that guy because I feel like he's just really good at what he does. Then there is self-disclosure, which is the factor of someone saying, you know, I opened up to you. So chances are we will relate and form a bond. Finally is the factor that you like me. And so very simply, I like you in return. And now we move on to our other slide, stability of membership. During an exhibition game just prior to the Olympics, defensive player Jack O'Callaghan was so badly injured that he could not play in the tournament. But rather than send him home and replace him with a new player, Coach Brooks kept him on the roster. He did not want to alter the chemistry of the team he had been developing for so long. Now, Coach Brooks found that the longer members stay a part of the team, the more likely cohesiveness will take place. Ziller 1965 describes here and projected the open and closed group. They differ to the extent in which their boundaries and membership rosters are open and fluctuates. Open groups are unlikely to reach a state of equilibrium since members recognize that they may not lose their place at any time. Closed groups are likely more cohesive as members know that competition is irrelevant and they anticipate future collaboration. We can relate this to the disturbance in synergy a workplace team experiences when the staff turnover rate is especially high. So we see here that the HR practitioner must be mindful of the impact stability of membership has on the cohesion of the work team. And now to group size. According to Forsyth, the impact of size on cohesion is in part a consequence of the sheer number of interpersonal demands that larger networks make of their members. As a group increases in size, the number of possible relations among individuals increase so rapidly that members can no longer maintain strong positive ties with all group members. And here we observe the concept of social loafing. The previous group touched it a bit, and so I won't spend a lot of time on it. But we can understand social loafing to be the tendency for individuals to spend less effort when working collectively than when working individually. It directly challenges the log that the productivity of the group as a whole should at least equal to the sum of the productivity of each individual in that group. Structural features. When you have a team that has an intended goal, hence a structured format, you find that cohesion is more possible and results reflect such. For example, we could look at the structure and results in the Sunshine Girls team versus the seasonal social teams. Certain types of group structures are associated with higher levels of cohesion than others. For example, when the military is recruiting, because they are tasked with, for example, when the military is recruiting, because it is that they are task-oriented, you find that recruitment is evidently more structured, and this manifests in a team of persons that identifies to be one with the organization, as opposed to a group of individuals that do not associate themselves with the company. So right here we have an example where you find that when persons speak about the team, they refer to them as they. This lack in structural evidence affects cohesion, and by extension, it most definitely affects the productivity of the company. Group members of a cohesive group are linked to each other by ties and not to outsiders. If asked to name for example, if asked to name their best friends, the people they respect, or those they communicate with most frequently, they identify other members of the team. The members of our group not cohesive, in contrast, may name people outside of the group when they are asked these questions. And finally, to examine for this section, we look at initiation. And we understand that initiation is a process by which individuals meet certain formal or informal requirements to gain membership. And we take the examples, very relatable examples, such as pledges for social clubs, performing activities for secret societies, passing tests for the military or police forces, and we take period reviews for religious groups. Now, initiations can increase commitment to a group. People who go through initiation to join a group tend to like the group more and is more task-oriented. Then now there are some adverse effects, because severe initiation, as we see here, can negatively affect cohesion and performance. We take the example of hazing practices, which is an initiation into a group that subjects the new member to mental or physical discomfort, harassment, embarrassment, or humiliation. Finally, how does initiation contribute to group cohesiveness? We take points such as 1, it makes the group attractive and brings prestige. When membership is earned, members become more active. And finally, less stringent initiation of members causes imbalance in contribution or performance of members. I hand over to you, Abby.
Thank you, Anna. All right, so just to summarize quickly, indicators of cohesion really speak to the fact that in the same way that theorists debate the precise meaning of the concept of cohesiveness, is the same way they have a problem deciding how to measure cohesiveness, because cohesion is a multi-level concept and it can be measured in so it's measured in multiple ways. So different researchers measure cohesion, measure cohesion in different ways. So for example, you will have some that will use judging from the conflict or tension in the group. Some use monitoring interpersonal relations among members. Jane Jensen 2010 measures cohesion in 3 ways: ethnic diversity, income distribution, and trust and others' attitudes. So I hand over now to Delon.
All right, thank you, Abigail. I'll now be speaking on the stages of group development theory, but considering the previous group spoke on it a little bit, I won't go too much in detail. So, Topman and Jensen's theory of group development proposes there are 5 stages every group passes through. These 5 stages are, as mentioned before, forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. In the first stage, which is forming, become familiar with one another. This stage is characterized by clear communication, politeness, and compliance. In the second stage, which is storming, conflicts surface in the group as members compete for status and the establishment of group goals. This second stage, hostility and polarization. However, tension within the group usually subsides. In the third stage, which is norming, the group becomes more guilty of each member are established, as well as the standards which group members are expected to uphold. This stage is characterized by an increase in role awareness and more of a we instead of a me feeling. In the fourth stage, which is performing, group members become more task-oriented and strive to achieve the goals of the group. This stage
Dylan? Group members?
Okay, so Delon was looking at, so let me continue on his behalf. All right, so I believe he stopped at adjourning. All right, so this stage is characterized by a general agreement on a
yes, sorry about that. I don't know where Hello?
Hello?
We're hearing you, Delon. It's okay. Just continue from where you left off.
Hello?
We're hearing you, Delon.
Are you guys hearing me?
We're hearing you. You're not hearing us. We're
Yes,
hearing
we
you,
are hearing you.
Delon.
Continue.
Continue.
Put it in the chat
In the chat? Okay.
that you're hearing him. Tell him in the chat that you're hearing him. He should just talk.
His mic is on.
Abby, do you want to continue so that we don't hold up the time?
Okay, sure.
Go ahead, go ahead.
All right. All right, so this stage is characterized by general agreement on group procedures, an increase in role awareness, and a more of a we instead of me feeling. In the fourth stage, which is performing, group members become task-oriented and strive to achieve goals of the group. This stage is characterized by decision-making, problem-solving, and mutual cooperation. In the fifth and final stage, which is adjourning, group tasks are completed, which leads also the termination of group goals and subsequently a reduction in interdependency. This is characterized by disintegration and withdrawal, along with feelings of sadness as a result of the group disbanding. While Tuckman's theory proposes groups go through these 5 stages of development, subsequently, Robert Bale's 1979 equilibrium model suggests otherwise. Bale's 1979 equilibrium model proposes that when individuals join a group, they strive to find a balance between attaining group goals and enhancing inter-member relations. In other words, the group focus switches between meeting group objectives and developing interpersonal relationships. Consequently, the group cycles back and forth between the norming and performing stages of Tuckman's theory. Similarly, the punctuated equilibrium model also proposes groups go through the stages of development in a different order and or at a much faster pace. Generally, this can be attributed to a loss of group member or a shift in group goals. Additionally, at the halfway point in the life of the group, its dynamics may change as members recognize they have limited time remaining with each other. Now over to you, Jody.
Thanks, Abby. Consequences of cohesion, member satisfaction, and adjustment. More participation, more influence, effective communication, personal satisfaction, and increased group productivity are some characteristics of cohesion. Cohesiveness makes it easier to achieve the goals of the group, and oftentimes offer psychological support. Additionally, through cohesion, more is achieved because members start to consider themselves as family, and as such, they are motivated to participate, and this also leads to bonds of friendship, which are then formed and strengthened. While on the adverse side of cohesion, members become emotionally demanding, and this can also lead to distress within the group. I'll now hand over to Dylan and Anaki.
Thank you so much for that, Jody. Awesome job, Abby. All right, among the facts to praise cohesiveness are the adverse effects. As we relate to the intended opening activity of the puzzle, the demonstration was to capture the interpretation that as a group, we come together with parts of us that complements that of the others in achieving the intended goal. Somehow our similarities and differences fuse together to make a cohesive whole. As we impact each other positively, we may also affect each other negatively until the group adjusts to the loss of one of its members. As is the real life experience we encountered when our group member, Jonathan, dropped the program. In completing every assignment thereafter, it's amazing how we saw the effect of his absence. We have adjusted enough, but we know that other members had to extend themselves to compensate for that missing piece of our puzzle. It is important to note that in the case of the characteristics of closed groups, we did not want to add members to substitute him. We were wary that it would throw off our achieved cohesion. And now over to Delon.
As with all things in life, there are pros and cons. One con of the old sergeant syndrome is that it negatively affects group productivity. A popular example of this can be seen by examining the famous Chicago Bulls team of the 90s. When Michael Jordan left the Chicago Bulls and started his baseball career in 1993, his absence was evident as the Bulls did not make it to the NBA Finals despite winning the previous 3 league titles. However, one pro of the old sergeant syndrome is that it can be said to increase group cohesiveness as well. Another popular example of this can be seen when examining the effects of the death of the late great Kobe Bryant. After Bryant's death, the Los Angeles Lakers team became more unified in search for their 17th league title. While other factors can be attributed to the Lakers' eventual triumph, when interviewed, the players made mention of the fact that they wanted to win the title to honor Bryant, who is a Los Angeles Lakers legend. Now, back again to you, Jody.
Thanks, Dylan.
You're welcome.
Now we consider group dynamics and influence. Cohesion in a group can be influenced by the group's desire to achieve its goal, the frequent interactions of group members, and the personal attractiveness. The more cohesive, the easier it is for members to be influenced. However, the dynamics of the group can determine whether a group is cohesive or not. When there are similar interests and effective communication on the likes and dislikes within the group, cohesion is most positive. But when there's an opposite, conflict arises. As a result, cohesion is lessened. Next slide, please. Too much cohesion can also hinder a group. The strain of being oneself might become an issue because individuals start to live according to the developed norms within the group. Another case where the adverse effects of cohesion can come into play can be found in an organization when group standards struggle with authoritative objectives. In this case, the dynamics of the group impacts the cohesion within the group. Next slide, please. This is also an example of cohesion and the dynamics of group. The role of a coach in a sports team is to assist in developing the players to their full potential. The coach knows what would be best for the team based on these potential. So if I'm a footballer and my preferred position is a striker, but my coach believes that I am better as a goalkeeper, to avoid changing and disturbing the dynamics of the group, I then accept the coach's decision to play as a goalkeeper. And by doing this, I'm avoiding the unfavorable outcome, such as group rejection, which would have resulted if I opposed or created conflict with the coach.
Not to interject, Jody, but at this point, we're going to ask the class for an additional 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Kadina.
This includes the activity?
No, miss. She just need, we have 2 more slides.
Oh, okay.
According to Thomas Field on group dynamics and processes, which is this video, we're just going to summarize it, but you can visit the video outside of the presentation. He states that conflict is fundamental in the growth of any group, and it is an important component for change. Additionally, in order to maintain cohesiveness, conflict must be handled sensitively, and an appropriate time to address the conflict should be chosen. Not all groups have heavy conflicts that requires attention. The more cohesive a group is, the less conflict arises, which results in minimal downtime. Finally, group productivity. Based on Steiner's model of productivity, which was mentioned by the previous group, focuses on the relation between an individual's ability in a group and the communication level of the group. Steiner went on further to explain that an actual productivity of a group is equal to the potential productivity. The potential productivity is the best performance the group could produce, subtracted by the faulty processes, which is the emotional problems or the poor leadership that might exist within the group. This then leads to underperformance and low task productivity within the group. However, on the other hand, in a cohesive group, it is more impactful, more is achieved, and productivity and profitability is increased. I now hand over to you, Anna.
All right, thank you, Jody, and thank you, class. We appreciate your time for us engaging you. We are finished. We did a bonus slide for you, we're not going to present on it. It's actually not a part of the chapter, but we know that you'll receive the slides. And so we thought that this would be a nice way to tighten it up. And it is really how can cohesiveness be strengthened? And you can peruse, it's pretty straightforward information. Thank you. Over to you, Ms. Morgan.
Oh, so the activity is no more.
No, it is, Miss, but you said that we would do it after. So I was giving you, I was waiting on you to indicate when, because you said we'd do it after. So I didn't want to, because we're 31 or 32 minutes. So I didn't want to go into it, but we're finished just now for the activity.
Okay,
If you would allow, no, but we're finished.
But you want us to go into our
groups,
breakout,
yes.
into our,
yes, miss.
So we'd have to,
so I should stop sharing now, right, miss?
Yes, yes, you may.
All right.
Are you still host?
Remember, guys, they're piecing the puzzle together.
Sophia is host, and you would have to make Anake the host to facilitate the breakout groups if you're not going to put people in breakout groups yourself.
Okay, okay.
Oh, no, Miss, but I was hoping that you would do it because you'd have all the names of the persons. So it's not arbitrary groups. They're going to be placed in the groups for the presentations.
Well, we just ask the person. No, I just start the groups and we just drag and drop. I think that's an easy way to do it.
Okay, Miss, I'm going to go back to the image here. This is the image that they're going to be. Wait one second. This image.
All right.
So should I stop sharing?
Yes, yes, okay. Yes.
All right.
Because you would hold on a second. Yeah.
All right, so what it is, everyone, is that we have a puzzle activity for you. It's really an attempt for us to demonstrate what we would have learned from this presentation as it relates to cohesion and group development, how best we'll work together. We thought so much that if we placed you in just arbitrary groups, you'd have to go over familiarizing yourself with everybody, and the objective would have really been lost. So I'm gonna place a link in the comment section here. Or Miss, how does it, do I place it in the if I place it here when they're in the breakout rooms, they'll be able to see it right here, right, Miss?
I'm not sure. Should be able to.
Place it there, and everybody be sure to read it before going into the breakout groups.
Yeah.
The thing is, Miss, this is the link that would take them to the activity.
All right. Tell you what I'll do. I will go ahead and comment on the presentations now. I'll leave the breakout group for last.
All right, no problem.
And yeah, because I want us to discuss this. And then after the breakout groups, then we can end, we can wrap up. But the important thing is to discuss the presentations. All right. As I have it here, the groups are supposed to be commenting and giving feedback to each of the different groups. I am going to throw it out to the class, however, for questions, to ask the group questions, to explain, expound, extrapolate on points you may have heard that you're unsure of, and then I will come in and comment. So questions from the class. So group 4 did performance and productivity, guys. It's a very heavy area in terms of the theories. They did a good job, I think, in terms of the scope of the information. But I'm not so sure about you. I mean, I was able to follow very clearly, but I'm thinking you may have questions in terms of some of these concepts that you heard, and what does this mean for you? They had a topic on performance and productivity. What are you leaving this session with? What new or how else did you come to understand this topic of performance and productivity? So thank you very, very, very much, Group 4, for a great job, I think, in terms of discussing these topics. They're very deep, as I said, the theories are very complex. And I think you spent a long time in trying to really to articulate them as best as you possibly could. So I'm going to ask the class now to ask for questions, comments, feedback on this topic of performance and productivity.
Very good job, team. I think the production, evening everyone, by the way. I think the presentation was quite informative and clean and concise as it relates visually for the optics. It brought out and underscore a point that I usually anticipate to accept, that there will always be conflict in a group. So far, the team of which I'm a part, we have very good cohesion and team dynamics. And you're always anticipating if there's a conflict, when there will be a conflict. But just to know that conflict is normal as it brings about different perspectives. And hopefully when that does arise, we are able to make use of it so we can, share ideas to perform at a higher level. So my takeaway from this is, conflict in a group and how to manage it to get the best out of that aspect of the group process.
Okay. Anybody else? We're still on the topic of performance and productivity. Is there anything you'd like clarified? No? All right. So as I said, the group covered a number of topics. One of the questions that jumped out for me, or a question that jumped out for me.
All right, Sophia, there were questions in the chat.
Oh. All right. Where are those questions? Can you read them?
All right, I'm looking for them. Okay.
Oh.
Cohesion, okay.
Can
you explain the Hazel group?
The Hazel group. I'm not so sure what that is. Performance and productivity group.
Rashina, you're having problems, you can't speak? Anna's, no, they're not at that one yet.
Oh, okay. Anything else in the chat? Okay. Okay. Is there anything, guys, personally that you would like me clarify at this point? Right, as I was saying then, if you guys noted the breakdown for the grading, half of the marks, 8 marks are allocated to your defining the topic, explaining the concepts and so forth, and 8 marks for your ability to relate the topic to your current experiences, whether it be your work groups, this group that you're working with in the class right now. As I said, there were attempts to do that. There were clear attempts to do that. But given that it's 8 marks for the content and 8 marks again for the application, I think there was some kind of lopsidedness in terms of your approach to this. At the end of the day, what does this mean for you? What does all of what you're learning mean for you as you navigate the groups that you operate. So yes, understanding the concepts is great. And I do appreciate that you're coming into this kind of information, for most of you, for the first time. And so it is perhaps difficult to wield your way through this information. But for the sake of the presentation, what story have you kind of carved out? How should we understand? What did you leave us with in terms of a clear understanding of performance and productivity? Or let me just, go into the other one as well, into cohesion and into group cohesion. So as I said, there are a lot of concepts being thrown out. What is performance? What is productivity? And as I said, one of the questions that came to mind is, what does this mean for understanding our productivity rates in Jamaica? What should we, is there any kind of links, any kind of connection? Is this the same kind of productivity we're talking about? As far as I know, the last productivity figure that we know of was that over the past, over near 30 years, our productivity rates in this country has been less than 1%. I think it's from 1973 up to around is it 2007 or 1997? But I know that's the last measurement that was conducted. So at the end of the day, can we take anything from what we're learning here to understand this bigger picture? Or let's bring it down to your group. What does this mean for how you operate in your group? What does productivity mean or performance mean for your group? Is it about getting an A? How are these concepts that you're learning? How will you use them? How will you apply them to achieve your own productivity goals? So in terms of the application, guys, these are some of the kinds of questions that you could have woven into the story on group performance and productivity. I like the notion of making your presentation into a story, a beginning, a middle, and an end. You start, this is what group performance is, this is what group productivity is. Tease us with some questions. What should we leave here with? So, how does our understanding of productivity helps us to build effective teams in the workplace, that kind of thing. So yes, having gone through all of those concepts and explained them, what should we do with them now? That's how I'd like us to see us interact with the material. Okay, so one of the questions that jumped out for me, very clear question posed by group 4. Do people work better in groups than when they work alone? I think that was the point of the exercise earlier on. And I think we all got that. But then coming down into the presentation, you use the concept of, is it social facilitation, to solidify that point that you were making. Well, I'm not so sure that you made the clear link that this concept help us to understand working in groups versus working alone. And what does that even mean for you as group members now? So there are a number of factors. You talked about all of the different theories that contributed to that broad idea. Personality, evaluation, all of that. And I do think you gave some examples, but making the links very, very clear in a way that we can relate it to a real life scenario, that is, for me, you know, a big expectation. Yeah.
Miss
Yes.
Martin, may I just attempt to answer that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one of the major takeaways from this is that as a group right now, we are studying a course that has a lot of materials that requires reading, it requires understanding, and it requires translation. And so just the mere fact that we operate in study groups, that tells the story that if an individual were to take on this task of even presenting one of any of these topics that have been presented week after week, it would be very hard. In fact, I do not know that one individual would be able to do it unless it's you, the lecturer. And so, and so the point that we tried to get out from our presentation is that when we work together as a team in a group, we are able to take on more, we're able to deliver more, we're able to perform better than if we were to be working alone. And that is what I would like to leave the group with from our presentation. We have seen where from the studies conducted, and even though I didn't, time didn't allow to go too much in depth in them, we see examples of even our Olympic team in 2000, in the Jamaican team actually, in the 2008 Olympics, when we had that team of Jamaicans that pulled off that 1-2-3 win. Now, there's a moot point because the medal was taken back recently, but without that being in the equation, we saw how that teamwork worked. It wasn't just a one-man race, it was a race that required team effort, and they did it. And not only did they win, but we got first, second, and third in that race. So that tells us that when people perform as a group rather than as individuals, much more can be accomplished.
Great. And that's very succinct. That's very, very clear. As you're talking, even about the debate, the relay team, you guys explored the concept of task coordination, right? And there are different ways that we organize tasks to get different kinds of results, right? So a relay team, right? What kind of organization would have taken place, given all the different ones that you explored? I think you looked at additive tasks, divisible tasks, unitary tasks, compensatory tasks. So using that example to really bring these concepts alive is very good. This is the point I'm trying to make. So I'm not so sure if, you know, sometimes within all of the theories and the concepts, sometimes just the little points or the little examples which are so powerful, which leaves us with a very clear understanding of what this topic area is, right? It gets lost in it. So the point Steiner was making about his taxonomy of tasks, right? The visible, asking the question, should the task be broken down? Or should we have one person do it? should we go for quality versus should we go for quantity? And how do we combine efforts to get the task done? This is a real scenario for you as you are, putting together this assignment. Even as you're doing you're putting together the presentation, you're asking, should one person present or should all of us present? What kind of taxonomy will yield the optimal results or the maximum result? Are you looking to optimize, by the way, or are you looking to maximize? So optimizing, you're looking for quality. Maximizing, you're looking for quantity, right? So these were real for you. These are real concepts for you as you are even conducting, your group work project. What approach did you take? Was it a kind of additive approach where you say, you do this, you do this, you do this, and at the end of the day, people come back, one person just kind of combines everybody's work, and hand it over to the lecturer?
Yes,
what is the result of that?
And as a matter of fact,
yes.
One of my other colleagues, she did bring that to the fore, that the work was divided amongst us all. We were given different segments to work on and then to come back, and then one person, with our help, of course, put it all together, and then we decided that such and such persons would make the presentation. So that was something that we identified even while we were preparing our presentation, and it was actually mentioned by my other colleague when she spoke about it, when she was actually covering that area of the presentation.
Okay. Yes, I did say, I heard some of it, but I just wanted to reinforce it here, right? Because as I said, we live this every day, right? You're living it now as you carry out your assignments, right? So what I don't want is for us to see these as concepts to be studied and to remember for an exam or to remember for a quiz, right? I want it to come alive for us, to be real for us. Is an additive approach the best approach, for the kind of grade that we want? Are we looking for quantity? Are we looking for quality? These are questions that you're asking of yourselves as you're completing your assignments. And even as your managers and supervisors in your organizations, how are you organizing your work? So
in fact, I pointed out to my colleagues also that in terms of even the distraction, the distraction conflict theory, I gave an example that on Friday, I was supposed to be in a meeting, and there's a report that I have to send out every day at 2. The meeting started at 1:30. And while I was in the meeting, I had to be focusing on this. And this is a report that involves figures. And so I had to be focusing a little harder because I had to be also paying attention to the other persons in the meeting. And I also had to make a presentation. But with that depth of focus and concentration, I was able to actually pay attention and to be able to present the report accurately. So we are not just caught up in the theories of these and it's from the book. We looked at it in real life situations and we did discuss them.
Okay, I just want the class to leave, as I said, with a clear understanding of how this is applied every day to your life. And so, as I'm pausing to raise a few points here, this is the purpose of this. So it's not to say that I didn't hear some of this coming out, right? But I don't know if within the network of information, you know, with the heavy information that we got on this topic, if persons were able to distill these nuggets that we can use to understand what really does performance and productivity mean for me as an individual, as I work in a group. What should I be looking out for? How can I intervene in groups that perhaps I'm a leader, or even if I'm not a leader, what can I do differently based on what I've learned here to make my group more effective, more productive, whatever it is?
Sorry, I just had an
Yes.
idea while listening to Sandra. One of the things that we do, we have a lot of information bombarding us from all sorts of things. So for instance, we might not be conscious of it right now, that there's a car passing or there's a dog barking or something, but we are receiving all of that information. When we have to focus, so for instance, Sandra was focusing on her meeting and at the same time getting her report out. The thing that I think we do is that we begin to sift, and we sift out some of the other extraneous material. And the focus comes down to us focusing on these two things and the things that are relevant to those. So we sift out other things. Now, how would we apply that if we're a group person, we're a team leader? If we have a task that our team must do within whatever context, what we try to do as team leader is to have people get rid of the extraneous things. So for example, if we are in an organization that is under siege and we have to do something to protect the organization's reputation, so we have to deliver something on time, or we have to ride out some sort of storm because of a product recall or something, what we would have to do is to have our team members not focus on the negatives. So the things that are being said about us in the press, the panic that other staff members or peers are going through at the moment. And what we would have to do is to focus on the task that we have to do. So for instance, suppose you're in HR, but say you had some scandal, the CEO is caught up in some scandal and it is bringing the reputation of the organization down. You would have to get your team members to focus on whatever it is that you are doing. So you are in charge of marketing, let us focus on marketing. We cannot get caught up in the CEO's woes. If you are in HR, let us focus on HR and looking after the staff members who may be adversely affected by the CEO's issues. Because sometimes it could be that the organization is in trouble. So for example, look at us now in the COVID times here. People are concerned about organizations shutting down. We're reading about that every day in the newspapers. We are reading about people committing suicide. We're reading about hurricane on its way to Jamaica. We're hearing a lot of things. The fact is, we can't do anything about the hurricane. We can't do it. We don't know the people who are committing suicide. We don't know a lot of things. We just have to focus on what we are doing in our group. And that is how we maintain productivity despite a chaotic context around us. But that's what I'm thinking.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry to cut you.
No.
You're done? Sorry.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, because I just want to jump in on that to say one of the reasons or one of the things I love to point out as I'm teaching this course, which we tend to ignore. So OMT talked a lot about just buckling down and doing what we have to do, right? Group 3 presented on cohesion. Guys, I have to tell you, right, that relationships are equally important as tasks are to group, right? So we tend to ignore, we feel that it is possible for people to buckle down and just do what we have to do. Having learned about cohesion now, what we're hearing is that element must be present for persons to be able to do that. I don't know if this is making sense for you. So the saying that we have, I'm here to do my work, I'm not here to make friends, that kind of thing, that is the biggest myth ever. If we don't like each other, if we don't see each other as similar, If we don't see ourselves as all in this boat together, we are not going to get to the work. It's plain and simple as that.
Yes,
So,
but remember what I was saying, that that is for the team leader to do that. So we are assuming that there is some sort of commonality in the group. So we are in this little department. We know
yes.
what our tasks are. We have a mission and a vision for our little department and that sort of thing. So I was assuming that.
Oh, okay.
What you're
Well, I have to point it out that a huge antecedent of performance is that cohesiveness. And that cohesiveness, it manifests perceptually, right? Perceptually, we have to think of ourselves as similar, right? It manifests emotionally. We feel very attracted or we feel very attached to the persons in our group, right? And behaviorally, sometimes we even a part of this, giving the scenario about the company under threat or what have you. One of the ways it manifests is for us to point out the ways that we are similar and different from everybody else. And this is why we're going to make it. And you're not going to make it because we're all in this together and we're all this. So all of those are take into consideration the importance of cohesion and the emotional content of the group. So before, as I said, we can buckle down and get the work done, get into performance, the cohesion is very, very important. So yeah.
Camille has a point.
Yes, Camille.
Yes, Ms. Morgan. So Olivine spoke to external noises or external difficulties. But what if the noise and the difficulties within the group? What if the challenges that we need to actually tune out to get the task done exists within the group?
People who group 3, cohesion, what can you tell us about that? Because that topic is supposed to have covered some of that. What are some of the factors that mitigate against cohesion in the group? Group 3?
And I'm just thinking, how do you define noise? But because the issues, the issues that are within.
All right.
If you're looking at the I'm just responding to Camille for my
okay.
I could expand.
In my so I'm Abigail from Group 3. In my reading, I came across some information where persons will be so focused, they'll be a part of a group, and even though the group may be perceived as cohesive, persons can be individually focused on their own personal goals, and those personal goals can contrast with the goals of the team. And because they're so focused on their own goals and on their self, that can be one of the things that cause personal distraction within the group. So the group may seem to be on a level, but because of your own personal goal, you trying to reach your own goals within the group, that can be a result of distraction.
Right. So you mentioned in group 3, you mentioned when you're talking about measuring cohesiveness. I like that, and I did make a note of that. What does cohesiveness really mean? So in your example just now, you said, the group may be cohesive. And if we define cohesive in terms of people liking each other, people seeing each other as similar, right? What does this mean for people who are pursuing their individual goals in spite of, the sense of camaraderie that we have? So this is it, guys. The group dynamics is extremely complex. So if I'm measuring cohesiveness in a group, I may find that the group is extremely cohesive, but the group is still not performing optimally. And this is perhaps one of the reasons it isn't doing so, because that was not a variable for cohesiveness.
Yes, Miss. They also mentioned some types of cohesion. They mentioned perceived cohesion, task cohesion, emotional cohesion. And I'm glad that Abigail mentioned that point, because you could perceive that the group, or you could think that there's group cohesion because you like each other, but then the skill sets are not merging, the level of experience is not merging, the vision is not merging. And so there's really no outcome, no worthwhile outcome, because yes, we like each other, but there's not much of a complementary set of skills to work with to get the type of outcome that is required.
Beautiful. Right. There are so many factors, so many factors. As I said, one of the things you mentioned when you're talking about measuring cohesiveness, diversity in a group. It is one of the factors. Who should we mute? Yeah, so diversity is an issue in groups, right? Older, younger, Black, brown, people come to the group with different identities, right? How are we supposed to see ourselves as similar in the midst of all of that, right? Is this notion of cohesiveness a farce? You know, if when I'm talking about the organization, I'm talking about these young people versus these older persons, or, you know, persons who are from a particular area in the society versus persons who are not. These are all factors that impact cohesiveness in a group. Trust, somebody else mentioned trust. And we have to look at it from the perspective of the culture in which the organization and we are embedded in. What is our culture of trust in general? What is a larger culture of trust? And how does this manifest in organization groups or even in your coursework groups? So we're talking about these topics, guys, but they're very, very complicated and they need to be broken down. They need to be unpacked if we really want to pull from them to make our groups more effective. This is the point I'm trying to make in this conversation. You know, yeah, I wanted to hear from you. What are some of your challenges with productivity? What are some of your challenges with cohesion in your organization? And can we, through these conversations, begin to pick these things apart, begin to understand them? Yeah. Comments?
Well, I like the thing about, you know, redefining your mission and your vision for the group in order to reorient it toward whatever it is you're doing. I'm trying to, as you say, apply it to what I live every day. And I'm thinking about it in terms of even this HRD program. You know, we're faced with a new reality. The program is not an online program. We have to deliver it online. And the steps that we've taken to try to see that the students and the lecturers can function online and gain something positive from that experience. But that meant that we had to redefine what we were doing and how we were prepared to do it in order to do it. So one of the things we had to do is to try to engage the lecturers, because they are worn down as well, having had to come a whole year without any breaks because of the issues we had in semester 2 last year. So yes, it took the coordinating team of the unit to become a new kind of glue for the program, because they had to persuade both staff and students to take on a new reality.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
so I'm just thinking that that is one application of what two groups have been talking about this evening that we've actually seen happen in the HRD unit.
And importantly, how do we define performance or productivity for ourselves, for our groups? How is it defined? At the end of the day, how do we know we're more productive? How do we know we're not productive? How do we know we're cohesive? How do we know we're not cohesive? As I say, both groups touched on that. So this conversation at the end now is supposed to really be tying this up, is to bring it alive for us. What does productivity and what does performance mean for us? OMT, what does it mean
But remember,
in the long run?
Yes, that is it, because we were saying that for us, it means what we do in organizations. We have not, over the last 25 years, seen Jamaican organizations transformed to the degree that we want, which meant that at 25 years, the HRD unit had to sit and reflect. Have we really succeeded in the last 25 years in meeting the very mission and vision that we set up? Have we been as productive as we thought we were being? We've graduated a lot of students. The students have got good grades. The students have gone out, but have they transformed organizations? And ultimately, that is what we want. So we have had a crisis in confidence in our 25 years, in our 25th year, and have had to look at what we want to do for the next 25 years and re-strategize. And that meant trying to get, it's like, I don't want to say putting new wine in old wine skins. I don't want to say it like that, though I just have, and it's on record. But it is to get the lecturers to have a new vision of what it is that they're doing, and to engage with the students in a different way from the way that they've done before. So the sort of engagement that we have with this cohort, we haven't seen it for the previous 20. It just,
wow.
We used to be like this in the early
cohort. Big up yourself, guys.
But it used to be like this in the earliest days of the program, but it
yes,
all
and
away.
I can tell you,
yes, but it fell away. And so we've now come back to the students to engage them in meeting our vision. So the cohesiveness of the group, it's you may realize, well, you don't have anything to compare it with, but the coordinating team is very highly integrated with the students this year, this semester, even more so than we were last semester. But we have made a conscious decision to engage the students. So we are now part of the student group. I go to classes every evening, you know.
And we'd like to know if you're feeling it, guys.
Well, yes, we need to know that. But the thing is that the thing is that enjoying the class is one thing. Being able to apply the knowledge is another standard, is another mark, is another indication of the success of the group, the productivity of the group. And as I said, when we look at what has happened in organizations in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean, we do not believe that we have been as productive as we ought to have been. That is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know?
And I hope I don't sound too harsh, or I didn't sound too harsh, guys, but it's the kind of conversation that we'd like to have. Having gone through this, yes, I'm assured that you now have a fair understanding of the subject area. Trust me, I'm fully assured based on the presentations. You guys have really covered the topic area well. So now we'd like to discuss it. This is what this is about. Discussing it in terms, as I say, of your reality, so that at the end of the day, we don't leave this here in the classroom, right? When you go into the company and you go back into your workplaces, take it with you.
Yeah.
It honestly, guys, this is something that has really bothered me, for want of a better word, over time. That person's goals have been to get this certificate.
Yeah.
You know? And I know that people are motivated to actually use this information, but they get very dispirited when they get back into a workplace that is not open and embracing of this. So a part of what we're trying to do here too is to empower you to figure different ways of, imparting, applying this, even without quote unquote permission to do so.
Yes,
and
definitely.
Yeah. So you will be learning about terms, perhaps as you do in OD, like job crafting, Job crafting allows you to make your job or carve what you do in a way that is consistent with who you are and how you are developing. So perhaps your job is really about your receptionist now answering phones, that kind of thing. How do you bring all of what you're learning, even in this master's program, to a job of a receptionist? You can.
Sophia.
Yes.
She's here. I am listening to the point that both you and ONC are making, and yesterday I was reading on the strategic HRD versus the regular HRD, and for a while, based on the research, I started to wonder if I was doing the right thing, the right course to spend so much money in this master program. The reason why I felt like that, because they're saying that it's like the HR department has not been really being proactive. Yes, the knowledge are there, just like what you're saying now, but are we really applying all of these knowledge to our daily life and to make the organization become better? And I was like, there was one of the points that they raised in the study is that the HR department is almost like they're separated from the operation of the organization. It's like they want to just stay in the pen and paper mode, not wanting technology to come because of fear of losing their job, or not wanting to be a part of the other operation of the business. So it's like once it comes to the HRD, it just the focus is on certain area, maybe the people, hiring, the compensation, just that. But in terms of how the business is moved, probably success of the, like, the HR department has not yet stepped forward to embrace certain things, to be proactive or to take the initiative to do certain things. And honestly, for a moment, I wonder if I was doing the right thing, because it's saying that based on maybe certain career goals, it has, I remember exactly which one they pointed out, but they are far ahead. Some careers, trying to remember some areas of practice, some professional area, they are far ahead basically more than the HRD. And it's not like the HR department does not have the knowledge of what to do to enhance the department. They do, but they have this spirit and not doing the necessary, probably applying the necessary studies and analytical data to do it. So if I continue, I'm going to become repetitive, but it's basically what you were saying. You know, we're gaining knowledge now, but how are we going to apply all of this to our daily life? Is it that we're in an organization that doesn't embrace change? Because sometimes you're in a department and you're so excited about all that you're learning and you want to contribute it, and they're like, no, we don't work like this, or no, you can't use that, you can't breach this policy, you can't change. So it's like you end up remaining in the same stagnant position, not applying or practicing all the vital information that we would have garnered from this interaction with you. So, I started to wonder if I'm in the field based on that, because like there's no attention, there's no credibility, there is no motivation, or there's no attraction to this area based on what I was reading, and I really got a bit concerned about it.
But that surely must be the old type of HR. That can't be the new strategic HR. New strategic HR is demanding that you take charge.
Yeah. The first thing that came to my head as I'm listening to you was the importance of writing your own narrative or new narratives. I've personally been hearing that kind of narrative from, I did the program in 20 years ago, long time. And yeah, it brings to mind the whole thing of even critical thinking. I mean, is this what we are experiencing? So some of us are in HR right now, and we're able to assess this information more judiciously. And some of us are looking to get into HR. And so this kind of narrative is very discouraging, but it is just one narrative. It is just one narrative. And perhaps it is so to some degree, because as they do say, there are elements of stories that are truthful, but not all elements of stories are truthful, right? So what is the narrative, or how can we recreate this narrative of HR's positioning within an organization? From my experience, from what I have been seeing or experiencing through my colleagues, close friends now who are head of HR in their organization, directors of HR, this is not so. This is not necessarily so. And I've tried to kind of keep abreast of what's going on in the world of work, right? Through my associations. And as I said, HR has been honing itself as a very critical part of the organization, a very part of the strategic functioning, decision-making, everything of the HR, based on my first-hand information from friends, very close friends who are HR directors, officers, and so forth. So what I'm saying is, some of this does exist, but interrogate the information in a critical way, right? And rewrite. Even if this is so, how are we rewriting the story? Ask ourselves the question, can we be learning all of this about HR and still, find ourselves in positions of, low status in an organization? What does it say about us? So it is not all true from my perspective.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it is not all true, and textbooks and studies are
yes, it might be old information, as I say, that might be the old kind of HR. That is not what we are pushing here. And what you also have to stop to think about is that we are approaching a critical mass of students now. So in the early days of the program, you might not have had other people in your corner with this kind of thinking. But now you have colleagues, you can talk to the people in your cohort, you can call somebody. As Sophia says, your friends are now emerging as the head of HR. People who were in the program 20 years ago are now leading the HR in the organizations. So we will see change, but it took time because you needed to have a critical mass of persons who had this new kind of thinking operating in local organizations.
Yeah. So
Felicia
don't be
has
disheartened.
a testimony. She went on an interview and was able to apply the knowledge she has learned so far. Wow. They made her an offer. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That is wonderful. Congrats, Felicia. Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful, yeah.
In COVID here, see? Wow.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Really nice. Applause.
I always say, guys, at the end of the day, you've done a course in group dynamics, team building, right? As you're selling yourself to your prospective employers, I always say, imagine them asking you, hey, now that I see on your resume, you've covered this area, because I know persons kind of express in this statement of themselves. I am, what's that statement called at the beginning of your resume? You know, that power statement that you make at the beginning of your
statement.
objective, right?
Objective.
Yes. People tend to include this whole thing of the team building and them being a team player in that. And, you know, having gone through this course, how can you package this bit of information in, say, you know, a paragraph that you will reel off in your interview to let people know that I'm not just I'm not just skilled in terms of the practice of team building, but I have something substantial to offer to your organization, you know. So for me, that's how I've always approached courses. At the end of the day, what are you gonna leave? What will you take in your back pocket? That if people wake you up at 2 o'clock in the night and ask you, what do you know about team building? What are the 5 things that you'll say that you can expound on in a way that makes it clear that this is, you're not pulling this from the hat. This is something that you've studied formally, right? And as I always say, guys, this is social psychology, what we're doing, and psychology is everyday life. So if you ask a lay person, they'll be able to tell you everything that we're doing here now. But at the end of the day, having done this course, you should be able to distinguish yourself from the person who's not done this course formally. And how will you do that? Yeah. While I'm talking, I'm trying to add persons in the group, in the breakout groups, so I can, yeah, that's what I've been trying to do here, but I don't know that I have all the group, no, the group names. Any other comment as I continue to do this?
Andrea just had a thing about HRD versus HRM. And just this afternoon, for the classes benefit,
yeah.
Sophie and I were discussing the future of the HRD unit. And right now we are the HRD graduate programs unit. Well, we've sort of dropped graduate because we're now looking at professional programs as well. But one of the things that we were looking at is to approach Mona School of Business and Management and the psychology unit in this department and take over their HRD and HRM minors, create them and other programs that we create into an undergraduate major and have an undergraduate program in HR. And then we would sort of do something to this master's to make it more practical so that it builds on an undergraduate. So it wouldn't cannibalize, the undergraduate program wouldn't cannibalize this master's program. It would just feed into it and we end up with stronger HR people. We also have another thing that we're going to propose to you guys. Again, I'm speaking with Sophia because it came out of this class, about inviting you all into a study that we want to do, whereby we develop careers for you guys, give you individual career guidance, give you psychometric testing, everything over the next 2 years. You get that in addition to your coursework. And then we look at the sort of careers that you have when you go out into the organization. So we would chart you for like the first 10 years of your career and see how well you do. And that would change how we teach HR at the University of the West Indies. So those are some things coming out of this class. Again, me sitting in the class, hearing what you guys have to say and applying that to what we do in the HRD unit. That is how you're supposed to do it. You apply what you learn to your job. And that's what even us in the HRD unit are doing. So I hope when we put out the thing that y'all will come forward and say you'll be part of this 10-year study. All right.
Sounds like a wonderful opportunity for me.
Mm-hmm.
to me, to me, rather than for me. Especially people at the beginning of your career. You know, I found working in organizations and with people that one of the big questions people ask themselves, they're doing a job, but is this what I really want to be doing with my life? Because at the end of the day, human beings are meaning-making animals or creatures. And, you know, we are socialized into thinking that certain jobs, certain careers are better than others, and we pursue them. based on these broad expectations, these broad, you know, ideas about what these are, what these jobs are supposed to offer. And then having, after doing these jobs, or having found yourself in these jobs for a few years, you're asking yourself, am I being optimal here? Is this my authentic self? There's just not a right fit, and this is especially so for persons who allow themselves to really introspect, to ask themselves how they're feeling and how they're performing in their jobs. So given this, I think this initiative is excellent, a wonderful initiative that personally I would jump on, especially if I'm at the beginning of my career. So
yes, and we're going to have the lecturers. So several lecturers are going to be contributing to it. And we've even brought in some of the psychologists. So Garth Lips and I would be doing the psychometric testing and all of that. So it's going to be a big effort. So I hope you stay with us for the duration, because it will be the 2 years, no, the 2 years while you're here. And then we chart your progress in your career for the next 8 years, because it's a 10-year project. And so it goes on. And we want to see if we want to see if you can do better in organizations. As I said, we're looking at our outcomes. Our outcomes can no longer be the number of people graduated. Our outcomes have to mesh with what our mission and vision are, that we want to transform organizations. That is what we need you to do. The 2 people, the 20 lecturers in HRD unit can't transform Jamaican organizations. What has to happen are the hundreds of students that we've graduated over the years. Those are the people who will go out and transform organizations. So that is why we need to recalibrate what we've been doing. And which is why, as I said, we have to reintegrate with the students. So it's not a management and student, it's not a university staff versus student. It has to be a more cohesive group, that all of us who understand what HR can do for local organizations come together in a unified way and move forward on that. So that's what we're doing. Yeah. So I'm actually not wasting time when I'm sitting here with you in the evening. What I'm actually doing is understanding where the ship has to turn. No, but I'm now the coordinator of the unit. I have to steer this ship. So I have to see to it that the HRD unit, for as long as I remain at the University of the West Indies, actually does meet the need of the students and all our stakeholders, because the government and the wider society, all the persons who run organizations, they're part of our stakeholder group, even if they're not paying us to teach HR. The fact that they employ you make them part of our stakeholder group, and we're accountable to them. And that is what we need to begin to think about, what we're doing. All right.
All right. So I've
yeah, so you've managed to put everybody in the group. I was trying to distract people.
I know. I have the list here of 2 groups and I've set them up.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead and send those persons off.
Hold on. Yes, may I ask a question, please?
Yes.
That's sending them off for group 3, right?
Yes. So what is, as is customary as well, right?
We have a question first.
Sure.
Just respectfully so, but I feel inclined to present the question because we're speaking in our chat, and we kind of feel a little discouraged in the sense that we're not sure how well we did. I'm not sure if it is that you're going to critique the group or presentation maybe at the end of our activity, but we feel as though we've been listening on to hear we saw from members of the class commenting on how they think we did, but we really value the critical judgment based on the fact that you know exactly what we were supposed to be presenting. We just wanted to know, did we really respond to the task? Did we really do it justice? Just because we felt like we put so much effort into it, and to be honest, we saw it as more than an activity. because we met each other for the first time. We actually met up. We were very excited about it. And we really personalized cohesion and development as a group. It was so easy for us this evening to speak on anybody's part because we became one with the content. But why we have this query really is because just now when you're mentioning that we should have cited more examples, we just need to know exactly what you meant, because we mentioned even Jonathan, that's the member, Jonathan Chung is his name, who dropped the program. And while mentioning him, we were saying that it really affected our cohesion. The cohesiveness of our group, and we really had to compensate. All members had to pool resources together even more than we intended to really spend ourselves, because we realized that it impacted us that he left. And we even made relation to the tenets of the closed groups, being that even though we were down a member, we never wanted to invite another member because we feared that it would have impacted the synergy of the group. So we're really listening on, and eagerly so listening on, and we're really just, we are asking if it is that.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And what happened was I was really taken by both presentations, and really taken meaning impressed with the scope of information and the length that you went. And usually when this is so clearly, there's a lot of questions just, pop up. It is because you've done a really good presentation why I'm able to ask these questions and to see all of this. So a lot of it is, eagerness. And I'm speaking for both groups as well. I know I started with the group 4, and I kind of just mentioned you, so thanks for that, Anna. You pretty much are saying you didn't hear much about you, group 3, and your performance. So yes, as I said, I liked the way you covered the content, right? And I did hear your examples. Your examples were spot on. And as I said, I got the sense from your examples that you understood the topic well, But as I said, the reason these questions came up was that I wanted us to explore in this discussion, some other questions that we may not have considered in a deep way, in a real way. So this is why I say I didn't mean to sound harsh in terms of bringing this up. It's not the intention, but it's just more excitement of what we can learn from this. So yes, both groups did really well, and the application in terms of your real scenario, what was going on in the group, was heard, and you grounded it in your relevant group experiences. You wove the theoretical content in a way that it provides insights into your concrete experiences, and overall it illuminated, I think, your understanding of group dynamics, right? So yes, but as I said, the discussion at the end was for us to really dig deeper and ask ourselves other types of questions about how these topic areas relate to our lives and what we can learn from them. So I hope that is helpful. I do intend for all of the groups to give you written feedback on each of these different areas. I have my feedback sheet. I've decided to do so at the end to give you the actual written feedback with the grades. But for now, it was more about discussing the topic in depth. So did that help, Anna?
Well, it helped me, Miss. I'm hoping that the other group members feel the same way.
Yeah, yeah.
Every year you hear students who've done group dynamics with Miss Morgan in undergrad say that they don't see much difference with the graduate program. But the truth is that that is because they are not interrogating the material in the way that you've just been doing it in this class. So that is the problem. They miss the deeper ramifications of the information.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, guys, you may have noticed that when you are studying an area, the content don't change, at all. So, if you're studying marketing undergrad and in postgrad, you're going to get the same exact topic areas. Marketing is marketing, but what is expected at the grad level is very different from what is expected at the undergrad level. And this is what sometimes people fail to realize. If you've done this before, you're like, oh, I've done this before. A different kind of connection with the information is required at the graduate level. That's what it is. So, yeah.
And that goes for all the courses that you do.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, go ahead and finish your statement.
No, I was just kind of reiterating what I said about the grad.
Okay, I think in reference to Anake's question, being that these presentations are graded presentations, I think, I hope I'm taking the liberty of talking for everybody in that we really anticipate your feedback. Because we want to have an idea if did we get it spot on, could we have done more, was it clear to the class? And I'm thinking that maybe for the upcoming presentations, that probably we could have the discussion maybe immediately after, so that the feedback is a little bit more meaningful for each of us. Because in all honesty, the discussion since night was kind of more lean towards the first group. And I think that is why Anake asked, because
you felt that way.
Well,
yes,
it was more about the first group 4-3. I'm not sure about the first one.
Interestingly,
so what
I was trying to do in the discussion, guys, was to show you that in a way there's so much overlap. I don't want us to see one as group performance and productivity versus group cohesion.
Right. We see the overlap, because even from our presentation the very first week, there are still areas that came in group 2s, 3, and 4. Upon which we also presented. But I think that really, because we know it's something that's being graded, we are soliciting your feedback, and probably it would come off a little more meaningful if the feedback was given like immediately after the presentation, so each group can get a fair chance to expound on things, defend what they have, field their questions, answer the question, because it's a 3-hour class, half-hour presentation. So I don't know if you're allotting like a half-hour for the discussion for each, and then you probably do a general discussion or a 45 minutes. I'm not sure, but something. I think we would appreciate that. I hope I'm not talking too much for anybody, but that's how I feel.
No, and it is a fair point. It is a fair point from the perspective that in a way we're kind of at cross ends, and I really appreciate your pointing this out to me in the sense that your concern, the class in general, did we do a good job, and how is this going to affect our grade? And that is very, very fair, right? When I'm responding and in this way, I'm thinking, in the discussion, I'm thinking, okay, the grades are already, set, taken care of. I think you guys have done really great. I think that was, this is understood. But now that we've gotten that over with, I really want us to stop thinking about the grades and to really discuss this in a real way.
Yes, that's true. I understand what you're saying, that we don't expect you to say, hey, you people got a 10 out of 20, a
Yeah,
15
and
out
it's
of
not really the
20.
grades we're
Right.
really
We just
concerned
want
about me.
construct a kind of more detailed feedback, like really, I think that, you know, you missed a point here. You should have been more detailed here, because really,
Right.
I mean, the presentations are not just for this class. We also are going to do presentations in other class and in our work life. And so whatever comment you make would help us individually and as a group. So we're kind of looking for some more, you know, just
All right.
just do for each group. I
So
mean, I think we would appreciate the individual group comment, and then you do a general discussion of both groups at the end. So we know that, you know, for future, we need to do this, not do that. And you too can then, I mean, ask the questions to flesh out the kind of discussion that you probably think wasn't addressed or we need to get.
Okay, so here's what I have, and here's how you will get your feedback. Did your presentation cover the topic area adequately, right? And that can be easily discerned. You know, you had a very specific source, and so I can check, did you cover the area? I think for the last one, I was saying to the group, you know, they missed an area that I would have liked to hear a little bit more about in the group socialization, right? For both groups this afternoon, I did not see an area that you guys should have covered, but you did not cover, right? So did your presentation cover the areas adequately, the scope of the area? And yes, this is so, right? Did you do a good job in terms of clarifying the concepts, defining the concepts, right? At the end of the day, did we understand exactly what social facilitation is, or did we understand exactly what cohesion is, right? At the end of the day, did we leave knowing that? And a part of the discussion too is to get a sense of feedback from the class. I know I heard it and I understood it. And a big part of that is because I know what I'm listening for, right? But I'd like to know too that the class understood this material as well. So this discussion is twofold, right? I will hear it because I know what I'm listening for, but did the class hear it, and did the class understand? Did the class leave with a clearer understanding? The coherence of your presentations and your argument, right? The extent to which you wove the concepts in. I kept talking about a story, right? A memorable story. Presentations are about a story, right? Group 4 started at the beginning with the activity, right? And this is a good way to begin a presentation because it captures your audience. It gets us to open up our minds to what we're about to see, right? But for me, the question is, was this a little bit too long, right? And did it detract? I thought so initially, but I thought that when the group brought back everybody to the main group and began to have the questions, I think that kind of compensated for me for the length. Group 3 started your presentation. You also have and forgive me for the time, I really have to give you guys this back. I know you're excited about this. You also have an activity as well, which I imagine would have brought home, you know, your presentation. So yes, I can't fault you for that, because we had a long discussion about what time you should do it, when you should do it. And perhaps you should have just done it in the beginning, but you're clearly not being faulted for that. Supporting evidences for the arguments that you make, right? Research findings, yes, I think both groups did really well with that. You know, how should we now understand this material? What studies have been done to illuminate this, that provide evidence for these, you know, statements that we're making about cohesion. And overall, for the content, I was looking to how well did your presentation flow, because this is important in terms of how we leave understanding the material. Was there a clear introduction, body, and conclusion, right? I think both groups did a really good job with that as well. And this is why I said this part on content, both groups did a really good job with that, right? You introduced your topic. What is it we're talking about? What are the objectives of the presentation, right? And then I'm looking in the body to see your objectives being met. I liked group number 3, when a presenter would, the way a presenter, when they pick up from the previous presenter, would kind of summarize what the previous presenter did, or you would say, this is what you're supposed to know moving forward. I really like that. So all of that was content. This is what I was looking for. And as I said, I think both groups have nailed that. The application, your ability to relate the content of your work issues and experience, in particular your work group. Both groups also used examples of what's going on in their groups. I think I also heard examples of workplace. I hear examples of other kinds of groups. Group 3 in particular talked about sports teams and cohesion, which is very good. It's one of the areas that cohesion is studied in a lot as well, sports teams. So I like that you brought that in. What I would like, as I say, in terms of the application is, you know, some questions, some thought-provoking questions, you know, of what's happening in groups and organizations in general, of what's happening in your in your work groups that you've encountered over time. Why is it that, you know, we may have set out for X and we never ever get to that goal, right? Was it a cohesion issue? If it was a cohesion issue, what really went wrong? That kind of interrogation I would like to see. So you did apply, but yes, you did in a way that kind of drew on specific examples of, you know, what was going on now. But in terms of the in-depth kind of analysis, that's what I was teasing out in the discussion. And of course, in that, you know, I saw too where the theoretical content that you had helped to provide insights into some of your own concrete experiences. The big question is, has the topic area illuminated your understanding of group dynamics? As I say again, this is what I was trying to get out in the discussion. And class engagement, class presentation. This is about your time management. As I said, I wasn't very strict on the time management for this assignment here, right? And perhaps it's a little bit unfair for groups who work really hard to keep within the time, right? But as I said, this is practice. This is practice moving forward. And maybe some of your lectures now are very strict with your time management. But the big question is, how do you present a whole chapter, 2 chapters in 20 minutes? It's the same question you're asking. How do you present a 300-page report to a group of board members, 8 board members in 15 minutes, right? You have to tell a story. You have to pick the main things. So while I was looking for the scope of the information, right? how you could have organized that. You could have said, okay, here's what the topic is all about in a kind of paragraph, but this is what we are going to focus on. And the reason we're going to be focusing on this is because X, Y, Z, right? So right there, you would have provided the scope. So if you're interested in X, Y, Z, you can go and look it up. It's all, you know, it's a part of what we're doing. However, we want to zero in on this. At the end of the day, when you leave this presentation on group cohesion, this is what we want you to understand. So that's how you would kind of condense the scope into a story that stays within the time. Yeah, your class engagement was good, was quite good. So that's it. Was that helpful? Oh man, I went on and on. Hi guys, are you
Very
here?
helpful.
Yes, yes, it was.
Yeah, so there's a method to the madness. Honestly, I was just so excited about the discussion part of it. So forgive me if I was not as detailed as I should, but all of this I'm going to type out and each group will get a copy of this. Sorry guys, sorry I talked you right up to 9 o'clock. Group 3, I promise you I will give you an opportunity to do your assignment, to do your activity. Please, please, please work with me and, you know, stay with me, stay motivated. I know you really wanted to do it. I was excited about it, but your question was very important and I needed to have addressed it. So
Miss, it's okay, Miss. To be
yeah.
no, it's okay and it's not okay, but it's more okay than it's not. It's just that if you understand what I'm saying, we really became one with this topic, and honestly, I can't explain to you how this program is really changing my life. I'm using it in my conversations. I sound so much smarter, and it's forcing me to go and read and read and read. That's why I was able to reach out to you and to say, Miss, the aspect on how we build cohesion, how is it through team building we can do this. I really thought it was so cool to put a bonus slide in the presentation because
and guess what, Anna, you see that bonus slide? Trust me, it was that bonus slide as I peeked at it, it really had some of these questions that I wanted to ask and to bring out. And unfortunately, it's a slide that you know, we didn't pay much attention to. I did see I'm like, wow, here are some of the questions, here are some of the things, you know, that we would really like to learn. So
yes, Miss, but it's not so much embedded in the fact that it's about a grade. It's not. We know that the intended goal is not just the grade. We're not just a walking GPA. We know, Miss.
Right. And I'm not saying that you are, but you know, at the end of the day, you're here to do well. Yes. And unfortunately, this is a system that we have now where we have to assign a grade. If it were up to me, believe me, I wish we had another system where we didn't need a grade, because grades are not telling of people's real capacities as far as I'm concerned. But it's the reality. And so that's the point I was trying to make. No, I don't think you are hung up on grade. Absolutely not, you know. But at the end of the day, it's the reality. So I will type all of these out, these comments that I have for you guys, and give it to you. But I'm gonna do it at the end of the presentations. So after next week, I will do it and you'll get this set of grades. So you can be motivated to continue. You hear me say motivated? With the grades that are coming up. All right, guys. So
Please
thank you
don't go
very
before
much.
you tell us about the quiz.
Oh, Lord Jesus, I'm so sorry. So, right, so the quiz is ready. The quiz is ready. Question is though, are you ready? I am willing, the reason I haven't put it up yet, because I know the date I have is today's, because I wanted to talk about, talk to you about it today. do you need a little bit more time? As in a few more days, and I would put the quiz up on, say, Friday for 48 hours, and you would have up to Monday afternoon to do the quiz.
That's for everyone.
It looks like an overwhelming yes in the chat.
Yeah. The initial plan was to put it up tomorrow, but I'm thinking that it would be good to give you guys a little bit more time. And the quiz is on the first 4 chapters that we've done so far. So the groups who've done those chapters have a little bit of unfair advantage because you'd have read them thoroughly already. But what is group dynamics, studying groups, the individual and the group, and joining groups. So there are 40 questions. There should be 40 questions in total, but you're only required to do 20. You're not going to see, you're not going to see all 40 questions. So the way the quiz is set up is that it's randomized. Each person will get a different set of 20 questions when you go on, right? It's half mark. So this, you're really only working for 10 marks here. So it's half mark for each correct answer, and no penalties for incorrect answers. The questions are randomized. The responses are randomized as well. So even though you have 48 hours to log on and to complete the test, once you begin the test, you will only have a half an hour. So it's only 20 questions. The standard time is about 1.5 minutes for each question. I can put another 5 minutes or so on that. But the reason the timing has to be, for the actual test, has to be so compact is that it minimizes person's opportunities to go and, looking up text or whatever it is. I know you won't do that, but, it is consistent. The time for the test is consistent with the time for the standard time for multiple choice, about 1.5 minutes per question. As I say, I can add another 5 minutes on that for persons who may feel that they may have issues navigating the system. I've done this before, and so I know it is not difficult. As soon as you log on, the prompt is there and the questions come right up in front of you. You click. Now, you have to be careful because I don't think it will allow you to go back, right? So having completed the questions on a page, when you click next, it will not allow you to go back. So you have to be very careful and look over that page before you go to the next page. What else do I need to tell you? Yeah, all right. So if you have technical difficulties while you're doing the test, right? Your internet is broken or something, I will know. I will know because when I go on, I will see that you've spent only 5 minutes. I'll see what's happening. The system is it provides a very comprehensive report. And if this is so, I have no problem in allowing a student more time to do the test. So don't worry about, what if I have internet issues or something happens. I will allow anybody who has issues, to another opportunity based on the report from the system. So I think that's it.
I know that you would tell us, but how do we access, is it on our VLE or we'd be sent
Oh yes,
a link?
good question. Good question. Very, very good question. So it's on OUR VLE, and the question is everybody, does everybody have access to OUR VLE? That's the big question. It is a real question, by the way. So if you don't, and perhaps you're not mentioning it here now, and I say if you don't, meaning there are other ways to access ORVLE as I'm learning. So for example, you can get a link and access the class if you don't have access, right? But if you don't, please let me know, because that's the only medium that I have to post this quiz. So if you have any problems at all getting on to ORVLE because of registration, please let me know. Or if you know anybody who is not hearing this now, you know, let them know so they can contact me. I have to figure it out. Right. So when you go onto ORVLE, there will be a link on the front page. Just like the link you see here to go to the class, not here, we're on Zoom, but on the ORVLE page, there's usually a link that says, when you click on it, it takes you to Blackboard. There will be a link that takes you directly to the quiz. And, you know, Anna is in touch with me. Anna is doing a great job as your rep, guys. You know, she finds me all the time. If anybody's having any issue at all getting on, I am very accessible and very willing to help.
Me?
Yes.
Question. I understand Anna is the rep, the group rep, but because I've done a quiz like this before, and there are several problems that persons had during the time they were on the program, and there was a number set up for us. If we are on it and having problems, we could just call that person or WhatsApp that person, and they could tell us what to do at that time, because maybe Anna is doing hers and wouldn't be able to contact you.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean, during the test if you're having problems?
Yes, the half an hour.
Oh, okay. I'm not so sure. I'm not even so sure what help I could give during the test. That's the issue, right? So I don't want to say that the best thing would be to abort it at that time, and then, you know, kind of inform me, so I set up another opportunity for you to do it, you know.
Sophia?
Yes?
Just a quick comment. So last semester, what our lecturers did was they had a bank of questions. So I know in our case, you mentioned that it's 20 questions. So they have a bank of questions, and the questions will scramble each time. So if, for argument's sake, I'm logged in now and I started, and the rest of my classmates are logged in at the same time, and for whatever reason I get kicked off the system, when next I go in to do another attempt, it's going to be a different set of questions,
right,
to avoid collusion if that's a concern. So that's probably something that you could consider, just doing more than just the 20 questions, doing maybe 40, let's say. And ORVLE can be configured in such a way that it scrambles the questions each time the student logs in. So if you have to do multiple attempts.
Yeah, I think I did mention that. Thank you so much. I didn't look.
Yes, you did. You did say that you were doing 40 questions.
I did say that. So thanks for bringing it up for people who may not have heard. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Thank you so much. So I do have right now 40 questions, and it is going to be set up in that way. So this is why I was saying, even if you're bored the quiz in the moment because you're having difficulties, when I allow you to do it again, I will not have concerns about the integrity of the quiz, because you would be getting perhaps a different set of questions. So, but
the system can tell you if you've been thrown off for some reason. So
yes, it does.
Yes, so the system does monitor you. So Sophia would be able to tell you, will be able to help you in that she'll be able to give you another chance, because she knows that you got into trouble.
Yeah. Believe me, the way around the system is so comprehensive. You don't even need to tell me what happened. I can open ORVLE, get to the report, and I know I can tell you what happened.
Yeah.
So so it's that transparent.
Oh, one more question. Will it be
Sure.
auto-marked or?
Yeah, it is auto marked, but I don't think you get the results immediately.
Okay.
But I post the results immediately. I'll post the results on OURVLE.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it's auto marked in the sense that it's graded right away, but the results come to me when I open the report, and I will filter for ID numbers and so forth, and put the results, or names, and put the results back on OURVLE so you can see it, if you prefer it that way. That's fine with you?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah. So it would be by ID number only. So your ID number and the grade. That's usually my MO for posting grades. If you'd like it in another way, let me know.
No, that is the university's way of doing it. ID
Yeah.
number and grade. Yeah.
Yeah. The only reason I'm thinking is that everybody kind of have everybody's ID number. When I'm having a large class of 100 and odd students, it's not a concern for students because nobody else knows anybody's ID. So this is why I was asking.
No, but the universities, the university mode, that we just do it that way. The university
Yeah.
says so, you know.
Yeah. So, yeah. If there is anything else, if there's nothing else, we're leaving really somber. Guys, we had a good class, a good discussion. And, you know, it's a very manageable test. It's extremely manageable. As I said, the questions come, you know, directly from the material that you've covered. So, you know, you should be fine. You all will be very fine. All right. Shall I say ta-ta?
Thank you for
Okay,
considering
okay.
the test.
Yes. Thank you too. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the extra time. I appreciate it. Yeah. Ta-ta. I think we can stop recording now.
I think so, yeah.